Hi everyone. So today we're looking at resonance versus mouth positioning. So I'm going to be talking to you about the British accent and how you can improve yours. I know I've got quite a few people who are planning to join today, so we're going to get started anyway, and they'll be joining as and when. I'm going to tell you all about everything I know, and then we'll do a Q&A so you can ask me all your questions. It would be so great if it was more interactive, if you could actually have a go. But we'll have to save that for another time on Zoom because I do most of my teaching on Zoom, obviously, because then I can actually correct and you can see how it works when you practice things like the warm up. But today it's just going to be more about listening to me for a change. So mouth positioning versus resonance. This for me is one of the most interesting topics out there when it comes to the British accent, mostly because if you open a textbook, which you might have done on the British accent, um, think about what you have noticed if you have opened a textbook. For instance, like pronunciation in use or ship or sheep. Those are some of the books. What you might notice is that it's heavily focused on the positioning of the lips, the tongue, the lower jaw, so the mouth in general. And it doesn't really talk much about resonance, not that I've noticed. So correct me if I'm wrong if you've read anything, apart from obviously on YouTube or people's websites. So for me, it focuses much more on what you do with your mouth and everything. The interesting thing about this is go, for instance, as an example, the positioning of the tongue here. Often, as a speaker who's not British, you're going to find that your resonance goes with the movement. So you have to be quite careful there, not to over focus on it. But we're going to talk a bit more about positioning because, especially when it comes to sounds requiring the tip of the tongue, because it is still very important. So I'm not going to make my decision clear at the very beginning and tell you which one's more important. It's more complex than that. Okay, so for example, if we were to take the consonant sound, okay, the tip of the tongue is traditionally, again, I'm going to use the word traditionally, placed on what we call the alveolar or the tooth ridge here. Okay, so as a British speaker, that is excellent. If you're not British, however, or if you have any kind of speech problems, so a lisp, for instance, a speech therapist will suggest to you that you position your tongue further away from your teeth. So actually not really on the alveolar ridge, so probably slightly on the edge and nearing to the palate area. So if, for instance, you take your tongue, you place it there, and you're just going to come back, and you're going to notice that the corners of the mouth here come back as well, and have a go at producing this kind of snake-like hiss. Your tongue's probably too far forwards, and it's probably pressing too hard as well. So it really wants to go back, just as the palate starts to slope upwards. So you've got tooth ridge, little bar, like a little step, and you want to go just before that step. I also sometimes talk about it being on the other side of the mountain because it kind of feels like you're going down a mountain because you're high and you're low. It feels like you've just got to the foot of a mountain. See what works for you. As it's something that's not that tangible, you kind of have to play around and see if you can find it. And as I said, as we're not that interactive, I can't hear you and correct you if it's not quite right. But anyway, just play around to find the position. And what happens here, which is really interesting, is it changes your resonance when your tongue is positioned further away from your teeth. So if we take as an example a word like soon, 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 the more you take your tongue back, soon, soon, you're going to find that your resonance ends up being here. And this is where your resonance needs to be. So you're probably starting to notice that actually the two are quite linked. the positioning and the resonance. So, like I said before, wherever your attention goes, that's where the sound tends to resonate. So, the first thing you need to do is correct the position and get to a point where you're proficient so you're not overly focused on it. Because if you focus here, you're going to have everything here. Maybe it won't sound like that, but there could be an element of that. So instead, you want to perfect it and then take your attention back here. And then we're starting to actually support the vowels. Okay. And what's interesting here about supporting the vowels, um, also, what does it mean? Sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? What does that mean, supporting the vowels? So your diphthongs are the sounds in the words, the thing that you really hear. The consonants are more like opening and closing a door. It's more kind of tiny little non-sounds, almost like little clicks or bits of air, aspirations of air. And when you have the actual sound, that's what you really want to make stronger and louder. And we do that by utilizing the lower jaw. So before I go into examples, I'd like to do a warm up. And I'm quite big on this. The warm up for me is probably the most important part of the training, because it actually helps you to realize where your sound needs to be and which muscles you need to be using. And we're going to do some warm up exercises that will specifically help with supporting vowels and diphthongs when you've got consonants requiring the tip of the tongue, which is what I'm going to focus on today, because we can't do everything at once. Okay, so first of all, we're going to do an exercise called stifling a smile. Actually, I just wonder how many of you here have done my warm-up before. So if you've done it, just send me a quick yes or a quick thumbs up or something like that to say you've done it. And then I'm going to know who's with me and who's kind of getting what I'm talking about. So when we stifle a smile, you have to imagine that you've seen something very funny and you're trying not to laugh. So imagine, typically the kind of thing that happens at school when your teacher says, no, everyone stop laughing, try not to laugh. And what you'll feel there is you're using these muscles here in the top and bottom jaw. Hi, Luca. Thanks for your thumbs up. Thank you. You see my warm up. Okay. So using these muscles here. Okay. Another thing that's really good to do when you do the stifling a smile exercise is a little bit of humming at the same time, if you can manage that, because we also need to utilize these cavities in the back of the mouth. And typically in British English, we're using spaces, cavities, that you wouldn't ordinarily use when you're speaking your native language. So we're talking a bit further back. So you might not realize that the space exists until you use it. So you have to use it to realize that it's actually there. And then you have to start practicing using the space. And the more you use it, the more your voice will naturally flow there, okay? And some people are pretty good at doing this. So Luca, who gave me the thumbs up, is pretty good at doing this, actually. He uses his throat quite well. And that comes from practice. And for some people, it's more natural than for others. So if it doesn't come naturally to you, don't give up hope. You just have to do the warm-up, okay? So we're going to stifle a smile and hum. I'm humming. At the same time, I'm using these muscles. And we use these muscles to a lesser extent when speaking. I use them slightly, and you might notice that some famous people use them, because you might notice they're a bit like this. For instance, so Kate, as in the Duchess of Cambridge, William's wife, you'll notice she uses these muscles. She's probably quite aware that her speech is important and she wants to come across well, so she makes a bit more effort. And British people in general, I think, will tend to use it if they're making a bit of an effort, or maybe they're quite passionate about something. Their muscles are naturally going to come alive. But you're going to find that you probably need to use it a tiny bit more. When I say more, I don't mean that exaggerating it, but you need to use these muscles in order to help you get your voice to resonate in the correct cavities. They probably do it just to sound a little bit more polished, their speech to be a bit clearer, to make sure they don't trip over their tongue or anything like that. But it will really help you. Another really good exercise for activating the lower jaw to kind of cause this kind of support to make your voice clearer is something called tongue boot camp. It's a bit of a funny one, but just bear with me. Have a go. So the tongue, the inside of the lip. So it's going to go around. You do 8, 8, 7, 7, and you don't have to go all the way to 1. You don't have to do 8, 8, 7, 7, 6, 6. But you just do as much as you feel you need to. And once you feel warmed up, then that's probably going to be enough. So just like I said, to activate these muscles. So I'm going to start. So do it along with me. So that was 8 for me. You don't have to do it fast. You can do it slowly. In fact, actually, it's probably equally good either way. 8. And strangely, you're probably going to find that actually you use all the muscles. Straight afterwards, you can continue. So you can do 7 each side. I just won't because it's a bit boring for you. So you've got something to listen to while you're doing it. So you can do 8, 8, 7, 7, 6, 6. You're probably going to find, which is interesting, that it's not really your tongue that gets tired out. For me, definitely it isn't. It's more these muscles around here. It's really a warm up, a workout, I would say, for the entire mouth. And it's a good one to do because it really makes you aware of the existence of these muscles. Some people say to me, I can't use them. And I say, but so does that mean you've never managed to bite into an apple before? So that must be really difficult for you. And the truth is that you probably don't, you're not used to using them when you're speaking, but you do use these muscles. Like I said, otherwise you're going to really struggle to eat. So if you bite into an apple, that motion, these muscles just get activated, okay? The reason we do this is because, as I mentioned earlier, wherever our attention is, that's where the sounds are going to resonate. And if your attention is on the consonants here, so it could be the lips, but bilabial sounds like b, or it could be the tongue here. Your attention is here, then everything's going to resonate at the front of the mouth. And you're going to find that your voice is very different from mine. So a British speaker has a kind of resonant voice that is sometimes a bit husky as well. Sometimes it sounds a bit like, maybe they've got a cold. And that's quite natural. And it resonates in the throats and the back of the mouth, and to a lesser extent around the soft palate as well for what we call high resonating sounds. So what we're doing here is we're really taking our attention away from movements at the front, because they do happen, we do them. But if we focus on them, then like I said, everything's going to sound a bit funny. It's like a really good example actually is the ooh sound with consonants at the front of the mouth, like do, do, do. I have to support here, otherwise I'm going to literally just get do, do, rather than do to, do to. So it's happening. There's a movement there. But I'm really supporting the ooh sound, which really requires me to use these muscles. Do to, I do to, I do to. And typically you meet people who have an accent that isn't British. And like I said, you really hear it at the front here. Do you, do you do, rather than do you too? So, and you can hear it's all resonating really nicely and fully back here. And the sound is just different. So if you want to sound more British, if you want to come across more clearly, then you definitely need to start doing the warm up and finding the resonance. And like I said, this often comes from the correct positioning, because which is very interesting. When my tongue, for instance, in the little phrase, I do tongue, and write it down for you actually, so you can practice afterwards. In the little phrase, I do too, my tongue for g and t has to be positioned a tiny bit further back, and that will then help my voice to resonate more here. So do too. And it's hard for you to believe because you're not seeing someone go from do to do too. But when I do my live lessons via Zoom, you see that happening. You see people coming along with their tongue too close to their teeth for da and t, and then repositioning it and everything being like magic. You see that happening because the positioning does have an impact on the resonance. But like I said, you also have to work on your resonance. The two things kind of come hand in hand. So I'm getting to my punchline way too early. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to tell you that at the end. Okay, let's go through some examples. I've written some down here, and I'm going to add them. I'm going to talk about what happens here and the mistakes, kind of mistakes that you could make. So here's my first one. Sorry, I should really have written them down, typed them, and then cut and pasted them, but here they are in my notes. Okay, so the next one is let's take a test. Okay, so we've got Now, is a voiced sound. So here I'm really working quite a lot on resonance. I'm really thinking about the resonance being in the throat area. So you can do that actually. Just take a moment. You can also lower your bottom jaw and hum to get the resonance to be more in the throat. Let's. And again, my tongue has to be positioned further away from my teeth. And that will help me to get my resonance to be back here. Let's. And it's quite useful just to start with one word, everyone. Don't feel like straight away you have to be able to do the entire phrase. And always never get frustrated. If you find something a bit difficult, come back to the warm-up, do some more chanting, humming, singing, all really good to get you using these cavities. So if you're someone who likes singing to the radio or singing to music, to YouTube, then do that. That's a really good way. Otherwise, humming, chanting. I'm not really a great singer, so I'm quite happy humming and chanting. And then we come to the next two words, or the next three actually. So take. So again, tongue has to be further back. This one's not voiced, it's an aspirated consonant, which means that the air passes out of the mouth. So I really have to use these muscles here to control the airflow. Otherwise, I'm going to have take in an extreme situation. So it's take. So I'm really having to support my diphthong A here. And I'm supporting it by stifling a smile. But also, A is a diphthong. So we move from the position for to the position for A. Can you see that? The movement goes out for this. It's not just one sound, Other people would say tek, because they'll just use the rather than the A, because it's a different sound, one they're not used to pronouncing. But all you have to do is make that movement a bit clearer, and you're moving between and take. And so we really have to support from the lower jaw. So this is a moment when tongue boot camp's really useful. Do you want to do it again? 8. And this is what it's got to be like when you're practicing, really having a go at things during the warm-up. Because if I say use these muscles, you're going to say, but what muscles? I don't have those muscles. I don't know how to do that. So you don't need to say I don't know or I don't have those muscles. You just do the warm-up, okay? And then it's take. So again, notice that you can control the movement, that you can have a certain amount of alertness here to support that sound. It's literally the difference between, I also often use this analogy, it's literally like the difference between a rubber guitar and an acoustic guitar. A rubber guitar, you're not going to hear much. The sound is just going to get absorbed. An acoustic guitar really supports the sound, and you really hear a nice clear note. It kind of rings out beautifully. And this is what we're doing here. We're turning the mouth from rubber to an acoustic guitar. Let's take a test. Take a test. And again, if I feel like I'm too focused on this bit here, take a test, then I can start to do a bit more of a warm-up to utilize the space more. So what I tend to do is I get people to imagine the back of the mouth is a cave. So you can just deepen the back of the mouth like a cave. And then you can come back to humming and chanting. So you can stifle a smile and hum. Let's take a test. And you're going to feel the more you do the warm-up and the more you do all these different little things like supporting from here and repositioning the tongue for the and the t further away from the teeth, you're going to find that everything just sounds better. So even just one little word or one tiny phrase can be worked on and perfected over time. So I would say that's how you start. You start by working on words, then very short phrases, and then slowly you'll be able to integrate that to your natural speech. But again, it takes time and you actually have to correct yourself. So if you find yourself, oh, my tongue is too close to my teeth, then you're going to stop and you're going to repeat yourself. And that's the only way you can train your brain. If you hear yourself making a mistake, I know it's not really a mistake, but you hear your voice resonating too far forwards in your mouth, it's not enough to notice. You've got to actually repronounce it correctly. And the brain hates that. The brain's going to really hate it if you're having to correct yourself all the time and repeat yourself. And so you'll start saying it correctly without making that mistake. Okay, let's take a test. So I'm going to give you another one. Okay. Here we've got take me out for Sunday lunch. It's a very British thing to go out for Sunday lunch. So take me out for Sunday lunch. Okay, take me out. And I'm obviously using a glottal stop there on out because it's followed by for or for. So take me out for. Take me out for. That's another lesson really. It's for another day. Take me out for Sunday lunch. Take me out for Sunday lunch. And you can't slow it down because then you get take me out, which doesn't sound so polished. Take me out for Sunday lunch. So we've got t as in take me. Tongue position slightly further back. For Sunday, Sunday. Again, tongue position slightly further away from the teeth. And lunch. Sunday lunch. And if you like, you can start by saying Sunday lunch. Sunday lunch. Take me out for Sunday lunch. Take me out. Take me out. And you can also hear the link there. I'm really hot on linking phrases because it's something that's very, very British. It's called connected speech. So you can look that up. Take me out for. Take me out for. Take me out for. So it's very quick. And that's another thing you're going to notice about British English. It's fast. And sometimes you might think, wow, that was quick. I didn't get anything. And other times you might think, but a whole lot of words were actually missing or syllables were missing. And that's quite normal. So it's something you have to get used to. Take me out for Sunday lunch. Take me out for. Because I'm not even saying for there. I'm saying for. Take me out for Sunday lunch. And this is another thing that affects the resonance because what's happening there that changes all of that is there is no T in out, is there? So alpha. I'm normally staying more here and I'm making it easy for myself to keep my attention and my resonance back here. Take me alpha. Take me alpha. Take me alpha. 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 And I'm not saying for, I don't even have to fully pronounce that word. Take me out for Sunday lunch. And then all I really hear is Sunday lunch, very clearly, Sunday lunch. Okay. And also, obviously, rather than saying for, which is slightly in the mouth, I've got fa, and the is right down here. So again, resonance in these typical areas, fa, because we've got the schwa sound rather than the or sound, as in for, the number 4. And that's purely because this little word for, which becomes fa, is not important. It's just linking. It's not something that adds to the meaning. Whereas Sunday lunch is very important and also taken out because the fact is we're going out for Sunday lunch. Okay, take me out for Sunday lunch. Take me out for Sunday lunch. Okay, right. Maybe you're sick of that one, so I'll move on to another one. And again, when you're practicing, play around with your tongue positioning. See if you can get your tongue to be positioned slightly further away from the front teeth. So, send me a next one. Someone who said they can't join till 1:30. I'm thinking, oh, I hope I continue till 1:30. So we'll see. Send me a sample. Send me a sample. Again, glottal stop. No D here. Send me. Send me. Send me. mostly because it's hard for me to move from da, da to because we don't want to focus on those movements. We don't want to find ourselves send me. And because it requires a lot of effort, send me, it would probably actually create a little bit too much focus around here. Because remember, I said that we're focusing on supporting vowels and diphthongs. So anything that's a bit awkward, or so for instance, moving between here and here, or even k and here, we tend to shorten. And the end of a word is not important really. As long as we've got the main vowel or diphthong, that's all that's important. So we end up with semi, semi, semi. So we don't have a D there at all. Send me a sample. So we've got the S twice, and we've obviously got a bilabial which is another moment when it could be distracting. And again, we're not focusing on the movement, are we? We're focusing on the resonance and supporting our vowels and diphthongs. So we're using these muscles here. Send me a sample. And can you see that my natural position for my mouth to be in is always this slight smile? Have you noticed that? So everyone needs to start doing this kind of slight smile, looking happy and positive in order to help you. It's going to help you. You don't have to do that all the time, but it really will help you if you have the slight Mona Lisa style smile going on. Send me a sample. So tongue further back. Also, when the corners are further back, naturally, when your tongue's positioned further back, the corners of the lips will come further back as well. So positioning here is really helpful. One thing affects the other. And like I said, when your tongue is positioned further back, it then helps you to get your resonance to be further back in these areas. It's just a natural consequence. So the two are kind of, they're very linked. Send me a sample. So find the position, have a go at the S, send, send. And see if you can become aware of the back wall of the mouth when you're pronouncing that. Send, send, send. You might even want to have a go at chanting a word. Send, send, send. Send me a sample. Send me a sample. So now it's question time. Okay, I've given you a few examples. Has anyone got a question for me about this complex relationship between positioning and resonance, and whether one is more important than the other? What are you guys thinking right now? Is there one thing that's more important than the other? Have I given you any kind of impression of what's going on here in terms of my speech? What am I doing that perhaps you're not doing? What have I said that's brought you a bit of clarity in terms of developing or improving your British accent? Maybe you've almost got one already. I know Luca's pretty much got a British accent already. Also, anyone else I know here, reveal yourself. Maybe I can make some nice compliments about you as well. Any questions? Remember, it's a Q&A, guys. I know it's a lot of pressure. Any questions about it? Otherwise, I'll just have to keep talking for another few minutes till you've thought of your question. Okay, so start thinking of your questions. I'll give you another example. Okay, so we've done S. We're going to do another T one now. Oh, actually, no, it's a mixture of everything. Yeah, we'll do T. We'll do T. Okay, and it's a really good one as well, considering what I just said. Okay. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. So, breathy, aspirated consonant. So we need to be stifling a smile. And like I said, when the corners are back, it will help you to position your tongue further away from your teeth. Take your time. Take, take, take. Take your time. Time, time. And I is a diphthong. For diphthongs, it's when you're moving between two different positions. And so here is a to I. So it's quite a long way to travel. So it has to be done in a really controlled way, which is why we need to really support using these muscles here. So again, we can go back and do a bit more tongue boot camp to help with the support elements. I always tend to reset after tongue boot camp by stifling a smile. Take your time. Take your time. So tongue could be on the tooth ridge, but I prefer to bring it slightly further back. Take your time. And when I'm really focusing on the space back here for the resonance, take your time. So we stifle a smile. Take your time. And just make sure you're repeating after me, doing the warm up at the same time. Take your time. And Lucas says, I wish I had a British accent. I still have some work to do, but thanks. Yeah, you're closer than you think, Luca. Tiny, tiny bit of polishing, but you sound very good. Okay. So there's still a bit of time if anyone wants to ask a question. Maybe you want to know about warm-up exercises and things that will be helpful. Maybe you have a kind of specific challenge in terms of your speech. What brought you here today? How come you decided to join me for this session? What do you want to learn? Are you interested in the pronunciation of individual sounds? Are you a bit further on than that? Are you looking more at things like connected speech and resonance? The thing about resonance is that you really need to do the warm up to improve it. So, like I said, you can sing even. It doesn't have to be my traditional warm up, but you can sing, you can chant, you can hum. Using these muscles is helpful, but what is, my goodness, just unavoidable is doing exercises to get the voice into the throat, because the throat, this is the area where British English really resonates, and we do that by lowering our bottom jaw and humming. And this is particularly useful if you've got a nasal voice. So I often get allergies. It's very annoying. And particularly just before I start taking my course of anti-allergy tablets, I really have to do this warm up if I'm doing anything really to do with my voice, any lessons, any videos. So it might not sound perfect, but it definitely improves it. And if you're not using your throat at all, that's the one for you to do. You can also do a bit more of a warm up, and you can do some exaggerated chewing and humming. So when should you do these exercises? All the time. So I would say before you make a work call, before you go out, before you speak to people, do it. A great exercise is to just do some kind of warm up every time you come in contact with water. Other teachers say do a warm up before you, or each time you go through a door, just to make it regular. So you're basically reminding yourself that you need to use these muscles. So you might just stifle a smile. You might decide to deepen the back of the mouth like a cave. But you're at least doing something. You might just make sure that every time you're in the car, you sing. Every time you're in the shower, you sing. So you're reminding yourself to open up all of these cavities all the time. And obviously, the other thing is softening your consonants. And so we talked about positioning, but the interesting thing about the positioning topic is that in order to correct it, you have to focus on it. And we know that wherever we focus, the sound is going to resonate, because I said that earlier. So if you're focusing on the tongue, then you might find that raw resonance here, and you obviously really don't want that. So you have to reposition, get used to the new position, and then really focus on the resonance. There might be that little period of adaptation where you're getting used to the new position, but essentially that's the way forwards. So I hope this session was useful for you. I think time is running out now. I've got another lesson coming up soon. If you have other additional questions, or any questions at all, you can just write in the comments box below, and I'll reply, obviously, when this video goes up onto YouTube for replay. So it doesn't have to be right now. Really, thank you so much for joining today. And I'm hoping to do a few more of these sessions. I had my fourth child last year, so I've been pretty busy with babies and house. But now I'm really back on things, getting back to grips with teaching again and fitting it into my life, my busy life. So I'm going to be doing more lives, maybe not every week, but I'm going to do my best. So if there's a specific day that or time that would be good for you, maybe today was a bit early for some people, just let me know. Let me know if, for instance, a 12:30 start will be better, or whatever better for you. Um, Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me today. And like I said, please do post your comments, suggestions, anything really. And I'll hopefully see you soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye, everyone.